Hello, everyone. I'm recording this on the same day I recorded the second part of my Renthok history lecture or video. But it is. I'm not going to post it till later, so that's cool. I have it right over here. I don't know if you can see this. It's called Statistics. It was. I used it for a statistics class, and then um, that I took at a little community college, but then repurposed it for the Warhammer 40K campaign. And so I have my notes from the campaign. Because I wanted to do another that one time in Warhammer in Rogue Trader thing because I'm running a session for it tomorrow. Hopefully, one of our players is missing, so I have a really clever idea, which I'll talk about once it happens. But I've already, in case any of my players are online and might see it. But I am very excited about this. It is going to be super cool. So, my players at the end of the session last time were on their way with the Inquisitor. They'd met up, they'd fought the ship with the orcs. They'd fought an orc pirate ship, freebooters, which was fine. And then they found the Inquisitor was waiting for them. So then, when they met up with the Inquisitor, they decided to, well, they didn't decide to. They went to talk to the captain of the ship. The Inquisitor demanded Inquisitor Helvetico Robert Del Smith, who was actually named after joint naming with a lot of my coworkers. I just asked them, what should I call this Inquisitor? And they were like, you should call Robert. And I was like, kind of already thinking, like, maybe I could make a female Inquisitor and then give her name her Robert because reasons. And then I was like, okay, Helvetico Robert with his middle name. Like, oh, we said that, and that kind of works. That one I kept on my own. And then I was like, well, what's the last name? And I asked Ariella, and then she said, oh, Smith. And I'm like, okay. And then I was like, Del Smith with a Y because it's sci-fi. Anyway, point being, they met up with these, my players, Captain Stern, and her crew, had met up with the Inquisitor and had said that, yes, we're sent by the Southern Inquisitor to talk to you, and that, no, they weren't sent to talk to her. They were sent to look for the ship, which they found. They were sent to look for the ship. They found the ship. Although Inquisitor Del Smith is connected to Inquisitor Lee. She was his mentor. And he was initially very cautious to go searching for the ship because her name had been attached to it. She had actually failed to capture the cult or failed to shut down the cult that had infiltrated the Imperial Navy and sabotaged the ship, causing it to be dead in space. Fun fact. So she was actually going to look for that. So they met up with her after fighting the orc ship and were like, hey. And then they decided that a joint sortie was in order. She asked them to take her down on their flyer. They said yes, so Captain Sharon and her crew are now taking the Inquisitor down, and they meet up with the captain, Captain Shaquan Jefferson, also named after a coworker because reasons, and Colonel Dalsworth of the Renthok 8th. No, Colonel Corleone of the Renthok 8th. Sorry, I have a lot of the Renthok 8th. I haven't developed as fully as I have the Renthok 10th, so I mixed up my names. Colonel Corleone, and there was a Major Dalsworth was murdered. Lieutenant Dalsworth was not. That was who they were looking for originally, was Lieutenant Dalsworth, because he was Lieutenant Tanders Dalsworth, who was a bureaucratic corps officer in the Renthok 8th. And because men in Renthok often serve as bureaucratic corps officers, men from the upper echelons of society tend to be second sons who don't inherit property are allowed to serve as bureaucratic corps officers. So he had done so, and his sister, who had then become a high general, was worried for him. So she blackmailed the Inquisitor into looking into the disappearance, and he took up these rogue traders and was like, go look into it. So they did. And so he was okay. He survived. But Major Leandra Dalsworth was killed. Now, she was the daughter of one of General Dalsworth's grandfather's wives. So technically, she was General Dalsworth's aunt, but was much younger. Was one of the much younger wives, so she was actually quite younger. In fact, General Dalsworth had been close to her mother, and they were about the same age, and then her contemporary married her grandfather, because that's the kind of thing that happens on Renthok sometimes, and with these big generational families that form. And so, and she actually did share a story with the character, with the players, about how she had remembered that Oleandra's birth, and how, her mom was super excited to finally have a kid, and now this child is dead. And so Major Dalsworth was killed by one of the saboteurs in the ensuing fight. Also, a number of women in the 6th and 7th companies of the Renthok 8th, but which I realize it's sequential, but and so it was very tragic. But everyone's more incensed. At least the Colonel Corleone was more incensed about the murder of the officer, because she was of the same social class. There is a huge thing on Renthok with the social classes and where the officers come from versus the enlisted women come from. So it was more of a big deal that he killed the officer, but he did also kill a number of other soldiers. And Colonel Corleone had wanted, and yes, I did name her after the Godfather, because I asked my friend what should I name her, and he's like, "What about Corleone?" I'm like, "You know what? Yeah, let's do it." And I was so Colonel Corleone had asked the captain to take the saboteurs back to Renthok for trial as murderers. And he'd agreed, because he didn't want the Navy to have to deal with them, because he realized that would reflect badly on him. So, but then the Inquisitor, because she had failed to capture this cult the first time, wanted to take the prisoners to Inspector Justice. And the idea was it was going to have to be a back and forth, and the players were going to have to take sides and maybe work a deal and maybe betray someone. Actually, it was rather anticlimactic. They suggested that just the saboteur who had personally shot the major, would be brought back to Renthok for trial, and the rest would be sent off to the Inquisitor. And because that was a reasonable idea, I was not expecting it, but if the players come up with a reasonable idea and you're not expecting it, you roll with it. So I was like, okay. And and of course, General Dalsworth, I figured, would be on board with it, so I made her on board with it, because she's my NPC and I'm the DM, so yeah, or GM rather. And so she was on board with it, and I had her roll to convince the Inquisitor, and she rolled really well on her fellowship test, so I was just like, okay, sure. So that was kind of anticlimactically. And then after that, they packed up everyone, and General Dalsworth, the Inquisitor was kind of snotty and pointing out that they couldn't take the prisoners because the Renthok troops were still needed back at the war zone that they were originally headed to. The war had not, that particular front was still in desperate need of infantry, and the Renthok gave this infantry. And they were, so they still need them there. So they don't, and they don't have their own ship. So she was kind of rubbing salt in the wound, and also maybe trying to get this last prisoner also. But then General Dalsworth convinced our players to transport her and the prisoner back to Renthok. And the Inquisitor had her own ship, so she was going to take the rest of the prisoners. Okay, and she had her astropath, who's also a pretty powerful psyker in his own right, work with, try to run a mind probe on the one prisoner who had one prisoner who had killed the major, who actually was one of the original two prisoners who, or rather, one of the original two cult members who infiltrated. And the players did interrogate him later, and I, gave him this culty thing. He was a huge devotee of Khorne, and pushing for that. And he was hoping that the being left in the warp would turn into this destructive power struggle between factions of the ship, and it would just be glorious slaughter, and Khorne would love it. That didn't happen because Captain Jefferson had great leadership skills, but it might have if things, especially if the other fields had failed. And then after that, they went to Renthok, because General Dalsworth convinced them to bring her and the prisoners back. And then they had, I loved it because I got to do all this cool lore dump on about Renthok, and I had them have dinner with the Dalsworth family, and they went to the Renthok, one of the barracks in Isdenhive, and I had the general in charge of the barracks offer them whatever they wanted. They said, we have certain funds that we can allocate for helping out various members of Imperial allies, so we could, as rogue traders, your position, and you've done this favor for us, because she was also Dalsworth, we can offer you something. You actually offer them basilisks, which are the guns that the 10th uses, the artillery units, which come from the northern part of the planet, as opposed to the southern part of the planet, which is mostly mining towns that have infantry units for the Imperial Guard. But because of that, they agreed to stay a few days and have dinner with the General Dalsworth family and got an orgy, and it was pretty cool. This video is running long, but I'm super excited because we get to play again tomorrow. So I have a super cool second mission planet side planned for them, and I'm hoping it comes through. We shall see what they do and if they accept the mission. If not, they'll just be off to the other place and they'll go through the warp, and shenanigans won't ensue that way. So, all right. That's what happened last time I played Rogue Trader. Thanks for listening. Love you guys. See you soon.